Hi guys! Welcome back to the weird side of YouTube. I'm your host, author DC Knipe, and this is The Reading Storm. And today we are continuing our Let's Read of Morte, the author. And today I'm joined by Theodore in his knightly garb. Isn't he cute? This is the cutest he's ever looked, and I'm so excited. Little cross on the shield. This is a sword from Lord of the Rings, though. It's Sting. But the sword that came with this outfit was really shitty, so I changed it. But I love him. Look how fucking cute he looks. I can't stand it. Oh my god. Alright, let's get started. We are on chapter 7. How King Arthur was crowned and how he made officers. And the feast of Pentecost, all matter of men essayed to pull at the sword that would essay, but none might prevail but Arthur, and pulled it out afore all the lords and commons that were there. Wherefore all the commons cried at once, We will have Arthur unto our king, we will put him no more in delay, for we all see that it is God's will that he shall be our king, and who that holdeth against it will slay him. We will slay him. And therewithal they kneeled at once, both rich and poor, and cried Arthur mercy, because they had delayed him so long. And Arthur forgave them, and took the sword between both his hands, and offered it upon the altar where the archbishop was. And so he made knight of the best man that was there. And so anon was the coronation made, and there was he sworn unto his lords and the commons for to be a true king, to stand with true justice from thenceforth the days of his life. And then he made all lords that he held of the crown to come in and to do service as they ought to do. And many complaints were made unto Sir Arthur of great wrongs that were done since the death of King Uther, of many lands that were bereaved lords, knights, ladies, and gentlemen. Wherefore King Arthur made the lands to be given again unto them that owned them. When this was done, that the king had stabilized all the countries about London, then he let make Sir Kay Seneschal of England, and Sir Baldwin of Britain was made constable, and Sir Ulfius was made chamberlain, and Sir Brastias was made warden to wait upon the north from Trent forwards, for it was that time the most party the king's enemies. But within a few years after Arthur won all the north, Scotland and all that were under their obedience. Also Wales, a part of it, held against Arthur, but he overcame them all, as he did the remnant, through the noble prowess of himself and his knights of the Round Table. Chapter 8. How King Arthur held in Wales at a Pentecost a great feast, and what kings and lords came to his feast. Then the king removed to Wales, and let cry a great feast that it should be holden at Pentecost after the incoronation of him at the city of Carlion. Unto the feast came King Lot of Lothian and of Orkney with 500 knights with him. Also there came to the feast King Oriens of Gore with 400 knights with him. Also there came that feast King Nentres of Garlot with 700 knights with him. Also there came to the feast the King of Scotland with 600 knights with him, and he was but a young man. Also there came to the feast of a king that was called the King with 100 knights, but he and his men were passing well between the scene at all points. Also there came the King of Carados with 500 knights, and King Arthur was glad of their coming, for he weened them all that all the kings and knights had come for great love, and to have done him worship at his feast. Wherefore the king made great joy, and sent the kings and knights great presents. But the kings would none receive, but rebuked the messengers shamefully, and said they had no joy to receive no gifts of a beardless boy that was come of low blood, and sent him word they would none of his gifts. But they were come to give him gifts with hard swords betwixt the neck and the shoulders, and therefore they came thither. So they told the messengers plainly, for it was great shame to all them to see such a boy, to have a rule of so noble a realm as this land was. With this answer the messengers departed, and told King Arthur this answer. Wherefore by the advice of his barons he took him into a strong tower with 500 good men with him, and all the kings aforesaid in a manner laid a siege to fort him. But King Arthur was well victuallated, and within 15 days there came Merlin along among them into the city of Carlion. Then all the kings were passing glad of Merlin, and asked him, For what cause is that boy Arthur made your king? Sirs, said Merlin, I shall tell you the cause, for he is King Uther Pendragon's son, born in wedlock, gotten on Igraine, the duke's wife of Tintagil. Then he is a bastard, they said all. Nay, said Merlin, after the death of the duke, more than 3 hours was Arthur begotten, and 13 days after King Uther wedded Igraine, and therefore I prove him he is no bastard. And with saith nay, and who saith nay, be shall king and overcome all his enemies, and or he die, he shall be long king of all England, and have under his obedience Wales, Ireland, and Scotland, and more realms than I will now rehearse. Some of the kings had marvel of Merlin's words, and deemed well that it should be as he said, and some of them laughed him to scorn, as King Lot, and more other called him a witch. But then they were accorded with Merlin that King Arthur would come out and speak with the kings, and to come safe and to go safe. Such assurance was there made. So Merlin went to King Arthur and told him how he had done, and bade him fear not, but come out boldly and speak with them, and spare them not, but answer them as their king and chieftain, for ye shall overcome them all, whether they will or nill. Chapter 9 of the first war that King Arthur had, and how he won the field. Then King Arthur came out of his tower, and had under his gown a jesseraunt of double mail, and there went with him the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Sir Baldwin of Britain, and Sir Kay, and Sir Brastias. Then there were men the most worshipped that were with him, and when they were met there with no meekness, but stout words on both sides. But always King Arthur answered them, and said he would make them to bow as he lived. Wherefore they departed with wrath, and King Arthur bade keep them well, and they bade the king keep him well. So the king returned him to the tower again, and armed him and all his knights. What will ye do? Said Merlin to the kings. Ye were better for to stint, for ye shall not here prevail, though ye were 10 times so many. But be well advised to be afeard of the dream reader, said King Lot. With that Merlin vanished away, and came to King Arthur, and bade him set on them fiercely. And in the meanwhile, am I recording? Yes. There were 300 good men of the best that were with the kings, that went straight unto King Arthur, and that comforted him greatly. Sir, said Merlin to Arthur, fight not with the sword that ye had by miracle, till that ye see ye go unto the worse, then draw it out and do your best. So forthwithal King Arthur sat upon them in their lodging, and Sir Bodwin, Sir Kay, and Sir Brastias slew on the right hand and on the left hand that it was marvel. And always King Arthur on the horseback laid on with a sword, and did marvelous deeds of arms, that many of the kings had great joy in his deeds and hardiness. Then King Lot broke out on the back side, and the king with the 100 knights and King Carados, and set on Arthur fiercely behind him. With that Sir Arthur turned with his knights and smote behind and before, and ever Sir Arthur was in the foremost press till his horse was slain underneath him. And therewith King Lot smote down King Arthur. With that his 4 knights received him, and he set him on horseback. Then he drew his sword Excalibur, but it was so bright in his enemies' eyes that it gave light like 30 torches. And therewith he put them aback, and slew much people. And then the commons of Carlion arose with clubs and staves, and slew many knights. But all the kings held them together with their knights that were left alive, and so fled and departed. And Merlin came unto Arthur, and compelled him to follow them no further. I can't do anymore. This is really hard to read. This is why this is going to be the last episode of reading this for YouTube. I am going to read this in my own time, but I got a much easier version to read coming in the mail. Hopefully it'll get here soon. It's also illustrated, so that'll be fun. But I do apologize that I couldn't read this better. I've never read a book like this. It's huge and it's really difficult to read. I'm going to have to read it my own time. It's not that I can't read it. I can read it just fine. It's just doing it out loud is really difficult for me. Reading mentally is easier for me than reading out loud. I've always had trouble reading out loud for some reason. But if you like this video, please like and comment. Please subscribe. I desperately need it. But honestly, I just appreciate you guys watching. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single view. And I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!